Hi, I'm Penny Dick's AstroCoach and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be giving you an overview of the month of January 2021, all the astrological energies, and then I'll be moving on to your individual sun signs, and if you know your ascendant and your moon sign, then check those out too. If you want to skip the overview of the month, I won't be offended. You can just go to the arrow just underneath the video there. You'll see a little arrow. You click on that, a menu drops down, and you can then click on the particular sign that you want to listen to and watch. So, are you ready to move out of your comfort zone? Because we had quite a roller coaster year last year, and the energy has shifted this year. It's going to be different, but nevertheless, just as, shall we say, exhilarating in a different kind of way, because we've got both Saturn and Jupiter now, our planet of restriction and our planet of luck and good fortune, who have joined forces in Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is about more like the super conscious of the planet, and so they are bringing in, Saturn is bringing in structure. He actually likes Aquarius. He is a co-ruler with Uranus, and he brings in structure and more rules and more regulations, but I think we all know that's not going to just suddenly kind of disappear and go away. And Jupiter, however, is bringing opportunity. So let's hope that there is actually more opportune things happening this month that can set the scene or set the tone for how the next 12 months are going to pan out. The only kind of difficult part is that Uranus that's in Taurus, and Taurus is an earth sign and fixed, he is going to be squaring, which is a difficult angle, both Saturn and Jupiter at various times through this year, and this month, he's going to be squaring Jupiter, and that'll be between the 15th and the 19th. Now, Mercury, and I'm going to come back to what that's about in a minute. Now, Mercury moves into Aquarius on the 9th. He's going to give a voice to both Saturn and Jupiter, because Mercury is about communication, words, thinking. How do I get my point across? So it's almost like you've got these two energies. You've got Saturn that is saying no, and Jupiter that is saying yes, bring it on. So how will this all play out? Because Mercury is going to move through Aquarius, having conjuncted both Saturn and Jupiter, but he is having his first retrograde. So that's going to happen on the 30th of January. And it goes on till the 21st of February. Now, I don't mind retrogrades because I always think they give us second chances and opportunities. And remember, we have got Jupiter in Aquarius, who is also about opportunity. So I think that with whatever starts off at the beginning of the month with what's happening in the world, and I think there's going to be a lot of information coming at us from different angles about events in the world, then I think Mercury is giving a voice to that. And what we can see is that we have a new moon in Capricorn on the 13th. Now that's conjunct Pluto. Now it's throwing the focus back on our kind of, sign of last year, Capricorn. But Pluto is the planet of kind of transformation and digging right down to the sort of the depths of the very bottom of the ocean and finding the nuggets of gold. So this new moon actually feels quite positive to me. I think it'll be quite positive in terms of how we see things and how we see the way forward. And that's going to pan out also in our individual lives. When we look at sort of like, well, this is how things are for this year, or certainly this month, how can I turn this to my advantage? How can I make this situation serve me? So let's just move on a bit, because we've also got a bit of a spanner coming in the works this month. Mars, our planet of action, energy, aggression, war. He has been in Aries for the last few months, and he's now finally moving into Taurus on the 7th. But guess what? He comes up to meet Uranus, who is all about, you know, explosive things and sort of, you know, surprise, the unexpected. And he's going to meet Uranus on the 20th and the 21st. So it's going to be interesting to watch what's happening in world events around that time. Because also, because Taurus is an earth sign, Uranus can even mean things are kind of taken completely out of our hands. And because you've got this, you know, Jupiter square as well to Uranus, we could see extreme weather. We could see volcanic eruptions, or we could see earthquakes. I mean, let's hope we see none of those, but it's just a kind of heads up that these are the kind of things we can see. On a more mundane level, it can also be more civil unrest, more people in the streets demanding their rights, and people demanding to be heard, because remember, we've got Mercury in here as well. So people want to be heard, people want their views heard. So I think there's going to be quite a sort of a busy month of what's happening in the news. It's certainly not a month that starts the year off in a nice calm way. But before we go on to the individual signs, I want to move on to the full moon, which is in Leo on the 28th, because this full moon is opposite the sun that is in Aquarius, okay? Now the sun, if you remember, we've got Saturn in Aquarius, we've got Jupiter in Aquarius, we've got Mercury in Aquarius, and the sun at this point for the full moon is joined up with Jupiter. So that's interesting energy. And there's more, and I'll explain what it all means in a minute, because then we've got Uranus and Mars conjunct in Taurus, making a really hard square angle to this full moon. Well, this, as I said, is on the 28th. So let's just think about this. We have the moon that sheds light. It's a full moon, so it's about revelations, it's about awareness, it's about completion, it can be endings. And we have the sun, whose light is shining on the moon. So the sun is all about us, our soul, it's about health. And we have Jupiter, who expands everything he touches. So we've got Jupiter bringing opportunity for things to be completed in a good way. But watch out, because we've got Uranus conjunct Mars in Taurus, making this hard square to both the moon and the sun and Jupiter. So I think this full moon could indicate some quite tricky energy. It may be that the planet itself actually just has a bit of a shake-up. And remember, these things don't necessarily happen on the day. The full moon is like a pointer. It's a point in time. And then you look at the next 2 weeks beyond that to see when, you know, these kind of events can happen. They can also happen just leading up to the full moon. It's like the energy of these, you know, huge, you know, cosmic bodies moving around, just kind of, you know, they bounce off each other. So we could also see, as I said, changes in things, in governments, in countries. Just that there is a real element of revolutionary, evolutionary, conscious awareness and a change of the old guard. I think that's really what I want to say, that it's time to start viewing things in a different way. And as I started off this overview, to move out of our comfort zones. So on that note, I'm going to sign off for now and say thank you so much for joining me for this overview. It's going to be a very interesting year, let alone month. And thank you so much. If you would like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and an awful lot of you did in December, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And if you haven't and you would like to, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Also, if you would like to have a one-to-one with me for Astro coaching, you can find my website just there in the bottom of the video. And in the meantime, I'd like to say thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Thanks for now. Bye. Hi Aries, welcome to your astrological overview for the month of January. Are you ready to move out of your comfort zone? Because two of our big boys, of course, have moved out of your house of career, Capricorn, and they are now in your 11th house of hopes and wishes. And that, of course, is Saturn and Jupiter. Now, Saturn, of course, contracts, causes restriction, but you know, with hopes and wishes and dreams, that's not always a bad thing. It can be about slowing down to really kind of pay attention to the details and the sort of the realistic opportunity that could come from a dream. And Jupiter is the opportunity, of course. Jupiter in Aquarius is bringing you this wonderful chance to actually see some of your dreams materializing. But he is going to have a bit of a struggle at the beginning of January with Saturn, who's going to be holding him back and slowing him down, and Jupiter that's just sort of saying, whoa, let's go, let's get moving. And in the meantime, Mercury, that is in your 10th house of Capricorn, is moving into Aquarius on the 9th. So Mercury will lend a voice to a sort of, you'll be able to sort of put the thought to the ideas and dreams that you want to kind of get going. Now, you will know what that is in your own personal life, but you know, when Mercury conjuncts Saturn, you'll get this sense of, you'll be looking at it very, you know, with sort of under a fine microscope, really sort of making sure you've got the details correct. And when Mercury conjuncts Jupiter, you'll think, oh, it's ready, we can go. But slow down, because we need to look at what else is going on. Because we have a new moon in your 10th house of career, and that's on the 13th. Now that's conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. So new moons give us new opportunities. So there's some new opportunity coming for you to do with your kind of public image. And it's like you need to just change things a bit. Pluto is our planet of transformation. So I think Pluto is actually asking you to think outside the box with regard to your career and your public image, and look at how you can change things in a very, you know, using that energy from the 11th house of hopes and wishes to, you know, put some construct into dreams and ideas, how you can actually start getting these realized in the real world. But what else have we got going on? Because we need to talk about your ruling planet Mars. Mars, who's been going through your house of Aries, your first house, for quite a few months, and probably giving you lots of sort of energy to get things done, but probably also actually exhausting you. Because, you know, Mars is very active, and I think while you've had Mars there, you've found it quite difficult. You've probably found the restrictions of the pandemic quite tough to deal with. and you've wanted some elbow room. You want to just kind of move out a bit. And Mars, though, is moving out. He is moving from Aries finally into Taurus, your second house of finance, possessions, property, on the 7th. Now, what's interesting, of course, is you've got Uranus, our planet of surprise, the unexpected, innovation, invention, who is in your second house of finance, Taurus. And Mars is going to come up and conjunct Uranus on the 20th and 21st. Now, how this will play out for you, I think you have to look at what you want to initiate and whether risks that you might be wanting to take, represented by Mars with finance and property. I think you really need to just look at the small print and think about the finer details. I say this because Jupiter up there in Aquarius in your 11th house. So this is showing us you've got this kind of idea and dream and vision that you want to just get going. But Jupiter is making a hard angle to Uranus and Mars. It's a square, and so is Saturn. And so they are, Saturn is saying, no, put the brakes on. It's not just yet. And this Jupiter part is saying, I don't care. I want it now. Let's just do it. And Aries, you can be quite directional and just want to get things going. But this is really saying, be mindful of the fact that it's a harsh angle. Be mindful of that and just take a step back and look at what is realistically achievable, because sometimes with the presence of Jupiter, we get into what's not particularly realistic. So I think it's important just to bear that in mind. Now, the new moon I've just mentioned, which is where we're going to get this nice sense of something really transforming. And what we need to look at next is the full moon in Leo, which is in your 5th house of creativity. And this links in beautifully, of course, with your 11th house of dreams and wishes and things you want to manifest and bring into your life. Now, here's the moon in Leo with the sun's light from Aquarius shining brightly on this full moon. The sun has joined up with Jupiter, which is our planet of expansion. So you've got some expansive ideas and dreams and how to initiate them. And the full moon is saying, yes, I can see this. This is just a wonderful chance to do this. And with Jupiter there, this wonderful opportunity to really let this take off. But we've got Mars conjunct Uranus in the house of finance, making a hard square. So they are holding you back and they're saying, maybe not just yet. So there's a bit of tension between this Mars and Uranus. And I think you've got to think very carefully about what this tension is, because I think you need to think first that before you can initiate new dreams, what needs to go in your life? What chapters of your life need to come to a close? What does not serve you in the long term anymore? And, endings can also be, endings and beginnings can be painful. And, the sort of the full moon in the 5th house is really about sort of this kind of something that needs to really be realized. It needs to happen. But we've got this energy saying, but I think there are things that you have to do first. So it feels to me that there are things you really have to address on a deeper level about what serves me well, what needs to stay in the dustbin of the past, what do I really need to take with me forward on the next part of my life journey? Who do I want with me? Who's on team Aries? These are all things I think that you need to think about, because if you don't think about that very clearly, then I think it'll just become more difficult and it could get messier. So really think about what serves you and what needs to be left in the past and what needs to go forward with you. And that can be with ideas and hopes and wishes that we really wanted, but just realistically at the moment cannot, happen. It doesn't matter it doesn't mean they can't happen at some time, but perhaps the time is just not quite right. So in the meantime, Aries, thank you so much for watching this video about January for you. I wish you a lovely month. If you would like to have a one-to-one Astro coaching session with me, my website is just down here at the bottom of the video. And if you haven't and would like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd love that too. And thank you to all of you that did, especially a lot in December. Thank you so much. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much, Aries. Bye for now. Hi, Taurus. Welcome to your astrological overview for the month of January. Well, are you ready to move outside of your comfort zone? Well, actually, I think you probably did in 2020, because with the planet Uranus in your sign, in your first house of Taurus, Uranus, I think, has really made you kind of get moving in quite an extraordinary way, so much so that you will have been perhaps doing things and moving outside your comfort zone that have surprised a lot of people to see how active you can be, and also probably surprised yourself. Now, Mars, that's been in your 12th house of Aries, is moving into your first house of Taurus on the 7th. And he's going to move up and conjunct Uranus on the 20th and 21st. Now, he's going to give you lots of energy, but be careful that it's not too much energy because you might exhaust yourself. And I say this because Jupiter, who is up in Aquarius in your 10th house, because he's been joined, because both Saturn and Jupiter are now in your 10th house of your career and your sort of public image, they're going to be squaring Uranus and Mars in your first house. What does that mean? Well, Saturn and Jupiter are saying, this is about your career. This is about your public image. Uranus and Mars are saying, yes, we're really getting lots of things moving here and we're getting going. And I think what's happening is that Mars could just get you to overextend yourself, especially because he's squaring Jupiter. And Jupiter also can overextend. And if you get tired out, Taurus, I think I know what you probably do. You head for the fridge and it's sweet treats. And that will make you expand, which of course is another byproduct of Jupiter squaring Mars and Uranus. And that's what you don't want to do. And then actually what will happen is you'll get behind with the plans that you've got. So it's really important to pace yourself whilst Mars moves through your first house, and also especially when it's conjunct Uranus. So let's just move back up to your 10th house of career, where we've got Saturn and Jupiter newly arrived in this area, really putting the spotlight on your career and what you want to achieve. It does put you, I think, quite in the public image because, Aquarius is very much about, it's about electronic things. It's about the internet. It's about working from home and working remotely. And it's also, it can be putting you in the public eye in terms of, YouTube or television, or, maybe doing Zoom meetings with large groups of people. Maybe you're teaching something because you've still got Pluto in your 9th house of Capricorn, who is transformational, and that can be a house about teaching and teaching knowledge that we have acquired, especially because there's a new moon there. The new moon on the 13th has, in Capricorn, is conjunct Pluto. So It could be you're coming up with some new ideas about how you can, sort of transform what you've learned into the arena for you to be teaching this. And as Aquarius is your midheaven, I would say that online is a really good way to go with this. Now, we also need to look at the full moon, which is happening on the 28th, because it's a full wolf moon and it's actually in your 4th house, Leo. And this is the area of your chart connected with your home and family. It's a full moon. It's about completion. It's about endings. Endings always bring new beginnings. It's opposite, of course, the sun in Aquarius in your house of career. The sun is conjunct Jupiter, which is opportunities. It's expansion. I just wonder whether you're going to be thinking about either moving house, because you know that with the work you do, because possibly you're working remotely online, you could do it anywhere. So it doesn't matter whether it's a move within the country you live in. It may even be a move of country. Now that's really interesting. But it's squared by Uranus in your 1st house. Now, Uranus, as you know, is about shock, surprises. It could be that you really shock people by a decision, maybe a sudden decision to move or move country, that shock your family, that shock lots of people. Mars is also in on the equation because Mars is conjunct Uranus here. So this feels like you really are feeling quite gung-ho about this. Now that's great. That is great, Taurus, and you can do it. I just think you have to be mindful that because we have also Saturn up here in your 10th house of career, I think he's just asking you to make sure you have everything in order, you have everything in place. And it may be that this idea to move does not happen straight away, but it may be that in January you're really starting to think, I'm moving out of my comfy chair, and my comfy chair is going to come with me to another place, but actually it'll probably be a different chair and in a different environment. So that's quite an exciting way to start the year, eh, Taurus? I'd just like to say thank you for coming to watch your astrology for January. If you would like to have a one-to-one Astro coaching session with me, my website is just down here at the bottom of the video. And also, if you've subscribed to my YouTube channel, and a lot of you did last month, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. If you haven't and would like to, then I would love that too. And you can subscribe by hitting the subscribe button underneath the video. In the meantime, thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now, Taurus. Hi, Gemini. Welcome to your astrological overview for the month of January. Let's see what's happening to you this month. Are you ready to move outside your comfort zone? I think you're desperate to move outside your comfort zone because it's just not comfortable anymore, is it, Gemini? And now that you've got both big boys, Saturn and Jupiter, in your 9th house of travel, I think you're just desperate to get going. So is that going to happen? Well, Jupiter certainly wants to make it happen, and I think the opportunity will come. And Saturn is just going to be kind of putting the brakes on it a bit, or setting in place a few boundaries that and restrictions that you really don't like, that you're not comfortable with. The other thing we have to look at is that we've got Uranus, our planet of surprise and innovation, who rules Aquarius, by the way. So there's a kind of a link there between Uranus in Taurus in your 12th house, and the 12th house is very much about the inner you. and how you develop on an inner level. And it can also be where you can feel quite restricted and get quite down. And I think this Uranus, presence here is pushing you to really think differently and think outside the box. Now, Uranus is actually making a square on and off to both Saturn and Jupiter throughout the year. Specifically this month, he squares Jupiter between the 15th and the 19th. So watch out for those dates, because they could be days when you're, desperate to kind of just move and get out there. And Uranus could be putting some kind of technical thing in the way, or there's just there's something around the element of surprise with Uranus. It could even be extreme weather conditions, because Uranus in Taurus can be about earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and all sorts of horrible things like that. Let's hope not. But Mars, the god of war, is moving into Taurus on the 7th, and he will be conjunct Uranus from the 20th and the 21st. So there's going to be this Martian energy, which is very directional. Mars just wants to get out there and do his bit. He's very proactive. Now, conjunct Uranus, they're quite an explosive couple. So just be aware if there are any journeys that you're planning to make around the second half of the month, to expect maybe delays, especially because Mercury does actually go retrograde in Aquarius on the 30th. And even though I don't think a retrograde is necessarily always bringing sort of delays and difficulties and bad things, but because it's in your house of travel, it could indicate delays, cancellations, and it could be weather this time, the weather, and not necessarily, the virus as such. But Mercury is retrograde until the 21st of February, but I'll be talking more about that in February. So let's just come back to actually your 8th house, because this was where the major action has been over the last few years. And that will have put you through the ringer a bit, because it's the house of transformation, but it's also the house of death and rebirth. And that can be sort of symbolically as well, that people have left your life, not necessarily through death, but people can leave, new people come in. And also it's a house about joint finances and, what you have with another, what investments you have. Now, the new moon on the 13th is conjunct Pluto. So something is coming into realization through this new moon energy. Something is transforming for you with maybe joint investments. I just think that's going to be a good moon for you. I think it's putting some stability and structure into your life in general, and certainly into your life perhaps with another person, with a significant relationship. Then we really must come on to the full moon in Leo, which is in your 3rd house. Now, this full moon means that the sun is in Aquarius, in your house of travel, and it's conjunct Jupiter. So Jupiter is our planet of opportunity and luck and travel. And here is the full moon down there, also to do with sort of communication, thinking, writing, and just getting generally moving. And this is on the 28th. So that all sounds good for travel, but we still have this problem with the Mars-Uranus conjunction in Taurus in your 12th house, making a really hard angle to the full moon and the Sun and Jupiter in Aquarius. So I think that it's quite possible that you will be making some journeys or a journey, a significant journey. I just wonder whether that the fact that we've got Mars and Uranus there means you just have to be super mindful about how you plan it, and also to be prepared for the unexpected, in that you may get delays or cancellations, but nothing more serious than that. And as I say, it could be actually extreme weather that prevents you traveling. So let me see if there's anything else that we want to talk about with this. I think you've got to think outside the box, Gemini, this month. I think you know this, as I say, the restrictions have really held you back too much. You need to get out there. You need to be able to sort of move and flow with the energies of other people. And it feels quite good for personal relationships as well this month. I think there's quite a lot of fire in your belly, Gemini, whether you're male or female. There is a sense that you are really feeling quite sort of, what's the word, bullish about close relationships. So I think on that note, I'll leave you on a high and say thank you very much for watching your January video. And if you would like to have a one-to-one Astro coaching session with me, my website address is just down here at the bottom of the video. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, to my YouTube channel, and you would like to, I would love that too. Thank you. And for those of you that did, because quite a few of you did sign up, which I'm really grateful to, in December, so thank you. In the meantime, I wish you safe travels, Gemini. It's certainly going to be an interesting month, but I do think you are at least at last being able to get around a bit. Bye for now, Gemini. Hi, Cancer. Welcome to your astrological overview for the month of January 2021. Are you ready to move out of your comfort zone? Well, that's not something that's that easy for you, is it, Cancer? Because something that's quite important to you is to feel secure and nurtured and comfortable in your own home and your own comfy chair. So is anything going to change this year? Well, let's look at this month first of all. Let's start with your relationships, because there's been such a heavy emphasis on significant people in your life, especially your sort of nearest and dearest. And that energy is changing now, because back in December, both Saturn and Jupiter, our two big boys, finally left Capricorn and your 7th house and moved into Aquarius, your 8th house. Now, when they're here, this is very much the area of your chart which is connected with endings and beginnings. It's about transformation. It could also be about thinking outside the box, especially as it's Aquarius in your case. Jupiter will expand things and bring ideas and opportunities. Saturn restricts and contracts, but hopefully he will do that in a way that, in a sense, puts the reins on you a bit so that you don't get too carried away and throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. Now, Pluto is remaining in your 7th house for several more years, but that's okay with him there, because actually it'll just enable you to really see how you can transform your very close relationships into something you perhaps never thought they could be, and they will have far more structure to them, far more cohesion and a sense of really belonging. And we have a new moon conjunct Pluto on the 13th, and I think that's going to really give you this impetus to start afresh with a very close loved one. It also, I'd like to say that if you are single and looking, Cancer, then a new moon conjunct Pluto could bring somebody into your life quite transformational to you, and perhaps somebody that you wouldn't normally be attracted to. So for you single people out there, that could be super exciting. But I need to look at Mercury, because Mercury is moving into Aquarius from the 9th. And he is going to conjunct, and remember, he's our planet of communication, he's going to conjunct both Saturn and Jupiter. Now, when he conjuncts Saturn, he's going to kind of give a voice to, it's going to be a rather more morose side of you that we see. We need to sort of make sure you don't sink Cancer into a kind of a well of oblivion and get really down. There's no need to. And I think you do have this capacity, Cancer, to get quite introverted. And with Jupiter there, hopefully that will help you actually be a little bit more extroverted and not allow yourself to get caught in the sort of super consciousness of mankind and lofty thoughts about goodness knows what, which don't necessarily aid you in the physical world. And Mercury's going to go through this sign, and he does actually go retrograde on the 30th until the 21st of February, but I'll talk more about that next month. But remember, when Mercury is retrograde, it can also give you opportunities to relook at how you do things. But let's move on, because we must look at Uranus, our planet of the unexpected, of surprises, of innovation, of invention. And he, of course, is in Taurus, in your 11th house of hopes and wishes, ideas, dreams. He's going to be joined by Mars, our god of war, who's been in Aries for the last few months. And he's going to actually conjunct Uranus on the 20th and 21st, because he's moved into Taurus on the 7th. Now, what's really interesting with this is that at various times, Uranus is going to have this hard angle from both Saturn and Jupiter throughout the year. But in January, you're going to really notice it with Uranus will be squaring, that's a hard, difficult, challenging angle, Jupiter, and that's in your 8th house of transformation. So, you know, sometimes it's good to think outside the box and think, how can I use this energy constructively? Is it about me thinking outside the box? Is it about me really kind of transforming into a new part of me that I never thought I could really reach? With Mars there conjuncting and also squaring Jupiter, it's like you're given the opportunity. It's really kind of innovative, and could really see you putting some good foundations into ideas and dreams that you want to manifest with this energy. Because, you know, often if it was a nice angle, which we call a trine, sometimes we sit back and think, oh, well, it will just happen. And then it doesn't. But when it's a square, which is a hard angle, it's a challenge. So it's a bit like take up the gauntlet, take up the challenge. And if you've got ideas you want to put into, you know, into reality, then use that energy in a very constructive way. Because we've also got on the 28th a full moon in your 2nd house of finance, Leo. Now, I think that's super interesting because both Saturn and Jupiter, of course, in Aquarius, in your 8th house, which is also to do with other people's money. Now, a full moon, of course, is completion. It can be endings. And we know that the 8th house can also be transformation, endings and beginnings. But the sun is conjunct Jupiter, our planet of luck and opportunity. Are you getting some unexpected money, Cancer? Are you getting some unexpected money that comes to you, and it may have been through the loss of someone dear, so that it lends a kind of bittersweet touch to what you would like to initiate? Because what we have going on in the 11th house of hopes and wishes is where we've got, with this full moon, we have Mars and Uranus making a difficult, harsh square to the Sun and Jupiter opposite the Moon that's full in Leo. This is all connected with money and finance and property. And I think the Mars-Uranus is showing you that you get this opportunity to actually initiate something that's been incredibly important to you. It's just that there's a price tag which is not as comfortable as you would like it to be. Now, that's not to be feared, because it could also be seen as that you've got the money already invested and you want to take some risks with it. That is another way to look at this energy. Only you will know what's going on in your life and how this could sort of be relevant. Because also I think that full moon in the second house of Leo is giving you the opportunity that you might sell a house, you might move, you might do something with possessions and actually realize some capital. So there's a lot going on for you this month, Cancer. I think, you know, you've had a really challenging few years whilst you've been hosting in Capricorn, your seventh house, these heavyweight big boys, Saturn, Pluto and Jupiter. Pluto there, I'm not worried about now, because that'll just see things transform. And as I said, if you're single, new, wonderful, transformational people coming into your life. That'll even happen if you're already in a partnership. But an interesting month ahead for you, Cancer. Nothing to fear. I think it's time you moved out of your comfy chair and, you know, just start putting some, money where your mouth is, and use this wonderful energy to actually achieve some of your dreams, Cancer. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much for staying with me and listening and watching. If you would like a one-to-one astro coaching session, my website is just down here at the bottom of the video. And if you've already subscribed to my channel, and a lot of you did in December, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you haven't and would like to, I'd really appreciate that too. And you just click on the subscribe button. In the meantime, Cancer, thank you so much, and I'll see you next month. Bye for now. Hi Leo, and welcome to your January astrology. So, have you noticed the shift in energy? Well, you should have done if you haven't, because both big boys, Saturn and Jupiter, have moved out of your sixth house, which was where they were causing lots of routine shake-ups, and day-to-day activities were sort of really being put into a different sort of category and order. And also you will have had to have dealt with lots of niggling health problems, and even some quite serious health problems while these two were there, including things like broken bones, because Saturn rules the skeleton. So often when Saturn is present, then broken bones can actually happen. Now, they've both moved into your seventh house, Aquarius. Now, this is the house of significant personal close relationships. What are they going to be doing for you here? Because they're certainly going to be shifting the spotlight onto this part of your life. If you're in a relationship that has been dragging its heels, or needs to change, or needs to end, Saturn can help that happen. Sometimes we find with Saturn that if we don't let go of something willingly, then events make it so that we have to let go of it anyway. So if there is a relationship that is struggling, then it's probably a good idea to address it head on and think, is this going anywhere or not? What do we need to do here? And that way you actually, by closing that door, you open a new door onto the potential and possibilities, if you want someone new, for someone new to come into your life. The other good thing about having these two big boys in this part of your chart is Jupiter, of course, brings luck and opportunity, also abundance. So, of course, I think it will be very lucky for your close one-to-one relationships whilst Jupiter's here. I think he will bring, you know, opportunities for growth and for change. I also think if you're single and looking, then there will be an abundance of opportunities to meet somebody who could perhaps become a true love for you. But let's also look at Mercury, our planet of communication, because he moves into Aquarius on the 9th. Now, when he conjuncts Saturn, then you're going to find you having some quite serious discussions with a nearest and dearest. And when he conjuncts Jupiter, then I think you'll both be making announcements which might even surprise a few people. Because we have to remember that we have Uranus up here in your 10th house of career and sort of public image, how people see you. And Uranus in Taurus is making a harsh angle through quite a lot of this month and the year, in fact, but this month in particular to Jupiter, namely between the 15th and the 19th. Now, Uranus is about surprise and the unexpected. So I just wonder whether you'll be announcing news which really shocks quite a few people. It'll be interesting to see what's unfolding in your lives. Now, the other interesting thing we need to look at is we have a new moon in Capricorn in your 6th house, and that's conjunct Pluto. Now, Pluto is staying in this area of your chart for quite a bit longer. Now, I think he's going to help you really address more inner issues. If you have any kind of psychological issues that you really find quite difficult to cope with, it may be a time to do some deep soul searching. We can do that with all manner of methods, through counselling help or therapy help, coaching help. We can do it through workshops and self-help books. So there's lots of opportunities there. And the new moon, I think, is giving you this opportunity to have a fresh look at you and who you are and who do you want to be and how do you want to be seen in the world. So that's just something to sort of kind of bear in mind. But now I want to come on to the fact that we have a full wolf moon in your sign Leo, in your 1st house, and that is on the 28th. Now, this is a super interesting full moon. First of all, Leo, it's about you. It's all about you. And I think this full moon, this sun from Aquarius, is shining his light on you brightly. And the sun is conjunct Jupiter. So this is really, I think, bringing in the energy of that 7th house and close personal relationships. There is something that is coming to some kind of fruition, completion, resolution, but it's certainly a decision, I think, that will affect the sort of how your life is going to unfold for the next kind of while. The interesting thing is that Mars, our planet of action and energy, has moved now into Taurus. And he comes up to conjunct Uranus, in fact, our planet of the unexpected and surprise, on the 20th and 21st. Now, by the 28th, they are squaring, which is a hard, challenging angle, both, of course, the moon that is full in Leo and the sun and Jupiter that are in your 7th house Aquarius. So what does this mean? Well, I just think there's going to be some clashes of ideas. I think there's something to do with the significant other in your life that perhaps you're being asked by them to give them more attention. Perhaps they feel you're too absorbed in your work. And the Mars-Uranus could see quite a sort of tension between the two of you as you try and sort of iron out the details of how your relationship can move forward. And it can also be that sometimes we have to make choices, and maybe you have to choose whether you focus all your energy on your sort of your career and your sort of soul purpose or on your other half. I like to think that ultimately one can compromise, and I'm sure as the months go by, even though it may feel that you have to make this choice in January, I think actually there will be other energies going along that will help you to iron out any cracks that happen with this, so that you can have a bit of both. So on that note, Leo, I'm going to say thank you so much for coming to watch this January overview of your astrology. I would like to say thank you for any of you that have recently, and a lot of you have, signed up for my YouTube channel. I really, really appreciate that. If you haven't and would like to, the subscribe button is underneath the video, and I'd really love that too. Thank you. And also, if you would like a one-to-one with me for Astro coaching, my website address is just here at the bottom of the video. In the meantime, Leo, I wish you a really lovely month, and I will see you next time. Bye for now. Hi Virgo, and welcome to your astrological overview for the month of January. Are you ready to move out of your comfort zone? Because two of the big boys, both Jupiter and Saturn, have now taken up residence in your 6th house, Aquarius. You've had them in your 5th house for quite a while, and that's helped and slowed you down with anything, perhaps projects you've been working on, issues with children, issues with sort of romantic partners. There's just been a little bit of a sort of an up and down phase that's gone on whilst these two have been there. But they've now left Pluto there in your 5th house, who will remain for quite a long time. And they're in your 6th house, Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is all about its inspiration. It's also enlightenment. It's kind of genius. It's a genius way of sorting things out. Jupiter expands and Saturn contracts, but Saturn also adds structure, and Saturn does co-rule with Uranus, Aquarius. So Saturn, I think, while he goes through this house and in January, whilst he establishes himself here, will give you a sense of more control over how you manage your day-to-day routine. I wouldn't be surprised if you change it quite a lot. I think that in some ways you may have got stuck in a bit of a rut, which has not helped you with your sort of creative juices. And I think Jupiter's presence here in Aquarius is also going to sort of light up and fire you up to really think outside the box, Virgo. Now, interestingly, Mercury, who has been in your 5th house, Capricorn, also comes into Aquarius on the 9th. And he will, of course, in turn, be conjunct both Saturn and Jupiter. Now, when he does this, I think it's going to give you a kind of voice to what you want to initiate, what you want to start, how you see your daily routine being for, say, 2021, because you want to change it. You just need it to be different. And I think that's that way. If you've got stuck in any of your kind of things that you're working on and the way you're approaching them, it's going to give you a different approach. It's just going to help you shift the sort of the vision, if you like. Now, Mercury does go retrograde at the end of January on the 30th until the 21st of February, but I'll talk more about that next month, Virgo. But I also want to talk about Mars, who is moving into Taurus on the 7th. And he will be linking up with Uranus in your 9th house, Taurus, on the 20th and 21st. And Uranus goes direct on the 14th. Now, when these two come together, and the reason I'm highlighting it this month is Mars is about energy and action, and it can also be rebellion and real kind of sort of, I just, you know, standing your ground, revolting, I'm not going to do this. And Uranus is about the unexpected, or also rebellion, about revolution. So these two coming together, and, you know, specifically on the 20th and 21st, and in the overview, I talk about how that could be played out on the world stage. But for you personally, between the 15th and the 19th of January, they will be squaring Jupiter and loosely Saturn in your 6th house Aquarius. Now, I think there will be events that will happen at a distance. Now, that could be on a personal level, but it could also be on more the world stage, because it may be that we're all affected by events that change how we're going to move forward. This could partly be due to the vaccine and the fact that some people will be no and some people will be yes, bring it on. But wherever you sit in that, there's something about the energy between the 15th and the 19th that is challenging for you. Your routine is going to be challenged, and we will see as time unfolds what that's about. But I think when that Mercury goes retrograde and comes back in February, there'll be a chance to look at it in a different way and just sort of tweak the details, Virgo. I also want to mention this month that we have a new moon still in your 5th house with Pluto, and it's conjunct Pluto, and it's on the 13th. So that will actually be really super exciting for anything you're still working on, or if it's a long-term project you're working on. I think with this new moon conjuncting Pluto, you are going to really have some transformative ideas about how to progress forward. So this new moon is a great opportunity there for you, Virgo. And now moving on to the full moon, which we have in Leo on the 28th. This, of course, is in your 12th house. Now, the 12th house is very much about the private you, the inner you, the you that can feel restricted, or you know, the part of us that can sometimes feel quite sort of down even. Now, because it's a full moon, it's about something coming to realization. So I think for you in Leo in the 12th house, you are going to have some quite important sense of yourself, and as if you are closing a door on a part of you from the past that does not serve you well, and moving forward into the future with a sort of new year, like new year, new month, new you, Virgo. Now, this full moon is quite interesting because it's opposite, obviously, the sun that will by now be in Aquarius, your 6th house, but the sun is conjunct Jupiter. So that's quite a strong energy. So we have the light of the sun shining on the moon in Leo, and we have Jupiter there expanding its energy. So this transformation for you in the 12th house, this part of you that needs to wake up, is really quite powerful, Virgo. Now, the other interesting thing about this full moon is that Uranus and Mars conjunct in Taurus square. That's a hard, challenging angle. They square this moon and the sun in your 6th house and 12th house respectively. So this is going to be a very powerful full moon for you. It's going to be powerful for everyone because of the energy, because we have this rebellious stuff going on. I tend to feel that there seems to be something that it's more of a collective effect that is going to happen to all of us this full moon, and it may be that because they start rolling out the vaccine, for example, which of course will have started in December, but will really start to take off in January. Because of that, it is going to change the world, and there could be difficulties and struggles. You may have difficulties and struggles. What they're about, only you can know, but it's certainly a very powerful full moon. And I think if you can bring it back to yourself on a personal level, Virgo, and just see it as a way for you to actually move outside of your comfort zone, think outside the box, and actually not take things too seriously, and don't take yourself too seriously. Sometimes, Virgo, you're so intent on getting everything so correct and right, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you forget to have fun. And so this is important as well, Virgo, to remember that in the midst of all the chaos, and I think there's still going to be a bit of chaotic stuff going on this month all round, in the midst of all of this, it's important to still just, you know, see the funny side sometimes. Anyway, Virgo, thank you so much for joining me for your January astrology. And if you've not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would be so super grateful if you could. And for those of you that already have, because a lot of you did in December, thank you so much. That really is great. Thank you. Really appreciate. And if you would like a one-to-one with me for Astro coaching, my website is just in the bottom of the video here, and I would love to see you. And in the meantime, have a great month, and I will see you next month. Bye for now. Bye. Hi Libra, and welcome to your January astrological overview. Today we are joined for this particular video by my rescue cat Minky, and he's a very beautiful boy, and he's just decided he wants to come and sit here for this one, so I will just let him sit and listen. Perhaps it's a good omen for you, Libra. So all the other signs, I've said to them, are you ready to move out of your comfort zone? Now, I'm not going to say that to you, Libra, because I think you've been ready to move out of your comfort zone for quite a long time. But you are going to notice the energy shifting this month. And that's because two of the big boys, Saturn and Jupiter, have moved out of your house, the area of your chart connected with your house and family and home. And they've now moved into your 5th house, Aquarius, and this is Saturn and Jupiter. Now, the 5th house is much more about fun and creativity, having fun with other people, and just general jollity. It can also be children. It can be all matters pertaining to younger people. Saturn will lend some structure to this. So if there are any ideas you've got for sort of creativity and projects that you want to kind of get going, then Saturn's going to lend you some structure for that. Whereas Jupiter is going to bring certainly some fun and laughter into your life while he is in your 5th house. He doesn't actually stay in your 5th house very long, and he first leaves round about mid-March and goes into your 6th house, but we'll come to that later on. He will come back into your 5th house and do a little bit of a dance with your 5th house until he finally takes up residence in Pisces in your 6th house. But Aquarius, of course, is very much about our genius side, our kind of innovative side, our inventive side. And I just think you are probably thinking of ways to enhance your life by really thinking outside the box. Now, the only kind of sort of tricky bit could be that we've got Uranus in Taurus in your 8th house, and all this year basically on and off, but specifically this month, Uranus in Taurus is making a harsh, hard square to Saturn and Jupiter. This month, mostly Jupiter between the 15th and the 19th. And at that point, Uranus will have gone direct on the 14th. He will also be joined by Mars, who moves into Taurus in your 8th house on the 7th. And he will be conjunct Uranus on the 20th and the 21st. So what does all this mean? Well, the 8th house is about transformation. It's also to do with joint finance and joint investments and other people's money. So it may be that you're looking to realize some money that you can use for some kind of creative project. And it's a bit challenging because, of course, we do have Uranus in Taurus, and he is causing quite a lot of disturbance just in the world economic situation this year. That's still going to be going on. But also we need to look at the fact that Mercury moves into Aquarius on the 9th. He will conjunct both Saturn and Jupiter. You're going to have such a lot to say about what you plan to do, what you want to do, what you want to kind of get going. And Mercury will whiz through Aquarius and actually turn retrograde on the 30th, and through most of February until the 21st, in fact, he will be going retrograde through your 5th house. This is really actually going to be super good. I'll tell you why. Because it's going to mean that you've got second chances to sort out anything that this Uranus square is just making it a bit tricky for you. So don't rush, Libra. All in good time. Things will manifest all in good time. I want to also talk about the fact that we have a new moon in Capricorn in your 4th house, the area of your chart connected with your home and family. And that's actually on the 13th, and it's conjunct Pluto. Now, Pluto's going to be staying in this part of your chart for quite a few years more. But, you know, on his own there, it's really going to be, I think, very interesting. I think if you have plans to move house, move country, you may be thinking about that round about the 13th when the new moon happens. You may just be having ideas about maybe you want to move or sell a property, and that there just could be something in that kind of area of your life that is going to be looked at around this new moon. It'll certainly be transformative for anything else that you want to set in place. But we have to come also to the full moon on the 28th in Leo. And this is in your 11th house of hopes and wishes and dreams. Now, this is going to be a very interesting full moon. First of all, full moons are about kind of fruition, something coming to fruition, some realization, completion. It can be endings. But the sun, of course, is in Aquarius opposite because it's a full moon. But the sun in your 5th house Aquarius is conjunct the planet Jupiter. Now, the sun is about life and the life force. It's about energy and health. And Jupiter is about expansion. So the some, I think, idea that you've been working on quite quietly, which you are going to start to be able to put into practice or to initiate or to launch. Now, the only, say, fly in the ointment, if you like, is that we do have to be mindful of that Uranus-Mars conjunction square in your 8th house Taurus to the full moon and to Jupiter and the sun. Now, I've said to one of the other or a couple of the other signs that this may just be that it's events happening on the world stage that put the brakes on or just cause a rethink of plans. But Uranus in the 8th house, Well, it is about transformation. It's about the unexpected. It's about thinking outside of the box. It's also, but Mars is about, aggression, energy. It could be frustration. There could be some delays that really are frustrating you, Libra. And because you've had this idea that you want to get going. And I think what I want to say to you, Libra, is, it's really important to try and sometimes get out of our head and our thinking and into our feeling level. And if you go into your feeling level and get into that vibration of the flow of how the energy, if you like, of the universe wants things to unfold for you, it'll actually make it much easier for you to see the timing. And I say that because Saturn in Aquarius, also Saturn is about timing. And he is there in the background with this full moon. And I just think he's saying, Libra, it's about timing. We know you have things you want to do. Be patient and try and sense the timing. And then when you act, it will actually really work out very beneficially for you, Libra. On that note, thank you for coming to watch this video with me and Minky, who's settled down. Maybe he's going to be here for the rest of the videos. We will see. And if you would like to have a one-to-one with me for Astro coaching, my website address is just down here in the bottom of the video. And also, if you've already subscribed to my YouTube channel, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you haven't and would like to, I'd really like that too. Thank you. And in the meantime, I will see you next month. And hi, Scorpio, and welcome to your January astrological overview. We are joined today by one of my other rescue cats, DB. Minky was in Virgo, and now we have DB here in Scorpio. Maybe that's her sun sign. I don't know, because she's a rescue cat. So, Scorpio, what's happening for you this month? Well, with the departure, or the arrival, shall we say, of both Saturn and Jupiter into your fourth house, Aquarius, the area of your chart connected with home and family, you will really notice this month a shift in the energies. You will notice a big change. Now, both these planets bring change and opportunity and structure. Now, with Saturn there, it's quite possible you're thinking of moving house, you have just moved house, or it's an idea that you've got. And as Saturn is going to be in this part of your chart for a couple of years or so, then it's quite possible that that'll be something that you'll be thinking about over the next few years. Jupiter here brings luck and opportunity and expansion. Maybe you're going to buy a bigger property or move into a bigger property. Maybe because Saturn can be contraction, you're actually looking to sort of downsize and reduce the size of the place where you live. Whatever it is, it's going to be a focus, I think, for you. Now, Mercury moves from Capricorn into Aquarius on the 9th. And Mercury moves through this sign until the 30th, when he's going to go retrograde. Now, our planet of communication will, of course, conjunct both Saturn and Jupiter. So I think at the beginning of the month and sort of mid-month, you are going to have quite a lot to say to family members about ideas that you've got for rearranging or changing your living arrangements. There's certainly going to be something of that nature going on. And when Mercury does go retrograde on the 30th until the 21st of February, he will move back and help you iron out any of those details. But I'll focus more on that next month, Scorpio. I want to just move on to two other rather significant and important events that are happening this month, because Mars, our planet of action, assertion, aggression, frustration has been in your 6th house Aries for quite a few months. Now he is finally moving into Taurus, your 7th house of significant relationships, and he moves in there on the 7th. By the 20th and 21st, he is conjunct Uranus there. Now this really brings the spotlight onto your one-to-one close personal relationships. And if there is a significant person in your life, be it husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, you know, whatever terminology you have for your significant relationship, there's certainly going to be some sparks flying. Are these going to be positive sparks? But they're going to be sparks. Now, it could be sparks of passion because, you know, Mars can also be about sexuality. So it could be that somebody suddenly comes into your life, or perhaps somebody who has been sort of in the wings really takes center stage and the sparks of passion really fly. But there's a bit of a sting in the tail. Well, of course, there would be Scorpio, and that's your sign, the Scorpion. Because Jupiter and Saturn square Mars and Uranus, certainly on and off through the year, but mostly this month, it's going to be Jupiter that they square. Now, that's going to happen specifically between the 15th and the 19th, and Mars will be conjunct Uranus on the 20th and the 21st. So they're the kind of dates you need to look out for, Scorpio. Now, Jupiter expands. This is to do with home and family. And there seems to be, I think, some clash between home life, family life. Maybe your significant other you don't live with. Maybe it's about them moving in or some restructuring in the kind of family setup. But there's certainly going to be something going on in that department for you, Scorpio. Now, I also want to mention the new moon in Capricorn, because Capricorn was the focus for all of last year, and for the last couple of years, it's been a big focus for all of us, the sign of Capricorn, which is about structure, stability, governments, institutions, doing things by the book. And Pluto is going to remain in this part of your chart. And that's fine, actually, because I think it's going to help you transform the way you communicate, the way you are able to now think outside the box. This new moon is really going to give you a good opportunity to walk your talk, Scorpio. Now, I'm not quite sure what I mean by that, but I just feel there is something quite significant that is going to be happening for you around written work, written documents. It could also be learning or teaching. There may be something that you decide to sign up to because it brings in the energy of the 9th house. And anyway, that new moon is happening on the 13th, which then leads us nicely into the full moon 2 weeks later on the 28th. Now, the sun by now will have moved into Aquarius, and this, of course, is your 4th house. The sun for this full moon, which is actually in Leo, your 10th house of kind of public image, your sort of profile in the business world, your career, your sort of what you want to really achieve in life. So we have the moon up here in Leo, and it's full, which is about completion. It can be about endings. There could be something that needs to come to a close to do with your career. It could also be about initiation of something or realization of a career path that you really want to really get going. And the sun down here in Aquarius, conjunct Jupiter, our planet of expansion, seems to tell me that I wonder whether what you actually want to do, you're going to have to actually look at how you can do this online, because Aquarius is very much about the internet and using that media to put your sort of expertise across in. So it may be a shift into working much more online for you, Scorpio. The only thing I want to say is that if you're working from home and you're going to do more work from home, because Uranus and Mars are conjunct in the 7th house Taurus, and this is going to be squaring this full moon. So it's squaring the Sun and Jupiter in your 4th house, and it's squaring the full moon in Leo in your 10th. I just wonder whether your significant other will find that quite challenging and may put up some objections. But you know what, Scorpio? I'm sure you will find a way to pour oil on troubled waters and soothe the way to getting the structure and the way things are going to pan out in a productive way for everybody that lives in your home environment. And because you've got Saturn there, this is a planet of time. And Saturn's going to be going through this part of your chart, your home and family, for 2.5 years. So give it time, Scorpio. There may be, changes that you want to make in your career that are all possible. And it just needs a bit of tweaking. It just needs a bit of kind of thought and how you can maybe involve your other half in a way that is helpful for you. So it seems my black cat is DB is just, I'm not going to tell you what DB stands for. Well, maybe I will next time, because she was named by my neighbour who fed her out on the streets before she finally moved in with me. Not my neighbour, my black cat. Anyway, on that note, I want to say thank you so much for coming to watch your January overview. And if you would like to subscribe to my YouTube channel and you haven't already, then I'd really appreciate that. Thank you, Scorpio. For those of you that have, and a lot of you did in December, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And also, if you would like a one-to-one with me for Astro coaching, my website is just at the bottom of the video here, just above DB's head. Okay. And in the meantime, I wish you a great month, Scorpio, and I will see you next time. Bye for now. Hi, Sagittarius, and welcome to your January astrological overview. Have you noticed the shift in energy? Because if you haven't, you should be by now. Because both big boys, Jupiter and Saturn, who've been in your 2nd house of finance, Capricorn, for quite a while now, have now moved into your 3rd house, Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is very much about freedom and thinking outside the box, innovation. You've got Saturn here lending structure to the way you communicate and think over the next couple of years. Jupiter is also going to bring some optimism and luck and expansion into the way you think. So I really do think you are going to be thinking expansively and outside the box, Sagittarius. Now, Mercury, our planet of communication, moves into Aquarius on the 9th. So he will in turn conjunct both Saturn and Jupiter, giving a voice to this kind of new you in the way you communicate. I really think you're going to have some quite innovative things that you want to say and put across, Sagittarius. Mercury goes through Aquarius until the 30th, when he does his first retrograde of the year. And then until the 21st of February, he will be retrograde through your 3rd house, Aquarius. But I'll talk more about that next month. Not to be feared. It's good. It helps, actually. Now, what else have we got going on this month? Because it is quite an action-packed month astrologically. Mars, our planet of action, energy, assertion, aggression, fiery sexuality and all sorts of exciting things. He's been in your 5th house of play, Aries, for quite a few months. Now, on the 7th, he moves into Taurus, which is your 6th house. And the 6th house is very much about your day-to-day routine. So I think that's going to see you really kind of getting things moving in quite a sort of active way. And it may be because there's more freedom, you know, through the sort of the changes that will come in January with the rolling out of the vaccine. And so it may mean that it is just that you can start actually getting back to a more normal way of working than you've been used to for a while. Now, the interesting thing, of course, is you've got Uranus in this part of your chart. And Uranus is going to be here for several years. So he is going to be shaking up as well your routine. He's also going to be bringing unexpected events and developments, and probably thinking to how you actually negotiate the way your day-to-day working activity runs. Mars is going to be conjunct Uranus on the 20th and 21st in this part of your chart. So this is going to be quite a sort of an eruptive time. First of all, I want to say be careful that it doesn't kind of mean the flare-up of an old ailment, because the 6th house can also be to do with health matters. So just be a little bit mindful of your health, because Mars, especially in the 6th house, can make us sort of overextend ourselves a bit. So you may be kind of rushing a bit. So slow down, Sagittarius. But also we have to look at the fact that your ruling planet Jupiter, which is now in Aquarius in your 3rd house, he is going to be squared by Uranus and Mars. And they're going to be square between the 15th and the 19th. So even though Mars won't be exactly conjunct Uranus at that time, that energy is going to be around. And you just need to watch out for that, Sagittarius, because I just think also it may just be that you lose your rag with a few people. It may be something to do with work. It could also be frustration because something flares up, as I said, sort of health-wise. But let's move on also to the new moon, which is on the 13th, and that's in Capricorn, conjunct Pluto in your 2nd house. So you see, you're going to have Pluto staying here for quite a few more years, but now he has been, in a sense, set free of the restrictions of both Saturn and the expansiveness of Jupiter. Then Pluto actually is going to help you, I think, in your own time, transform your finances and how you work with your sort of piggy bank and what's in it in quite a sort of transformative and maybe new innovative way. Now, the new moon is on the 13th, so this really is giving you new opportunities to put in place some new ways of dealing with your finance. Now, on the 28th, I also want to talk about our full moon in Leo, which is in your 9th house. Now, the 9th house for you, Sagittarius, is very much about travel. It's also about travel of the mind. So it can be inner travel. It can also be teaching and learning. So this full moon is seeing something come to fruition, completion or ending within that whole sphere. Now, because it's bringing in, obviously, the energy of the 3rd house Aquarius, where the sun now is conjunct Jupiter, which brings expansion. So this really is a very exciting full moon, because I just think there's going to be some, I think there's going to be some sparks flying, and I'm not quite sure what this is about, but it's something to do with your routine, you're something you want to learn or teach, because we've got Uranus and Mars still conjunct in your 6th house, Taurus, and they're making this hard square to both the Sun and Jupiter in Aquarius and the Moon that's full in your 9th house, Leo. So a square is challenging. So there's something about you wanting to go off and do something new, I think, actually, Sagittarius, and that somehow what's going on with these guys in your 6th house, Uranus and Mars, is just there's events happening that prevent you or challenge you from doing actually what you want to do. Now, I don't think this is going to be forever. I just think, I've said this to one or two of the other signs, that I do feel there's going to be events that are played out on the world stage around this full moon and the following 2 weeks, which actually takes us into February, that could have a bearing on all of us. It may be to do with restrictions, still to do with the COVID situation. It may be to do with the vaccine rolling out. It may be to do with people really still getting quite hot under the collar about all sorts of things and their sort of freedom and liberty and human rights. So there is an element of that in the, I think, the general picture, Sagittarius. So you will know how it's going to play out in your own life at that time. But on that note, I want to say thank you, Sagittarius, for coming to join me to watch your January overview. You will notice the energies changing this month, Sagittarius. It is going to get easier. There's just going to be different challenges, but you know, a change is as good as a rest day, Sagittarius. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you so much for coming to watch this. If you've signed up recently to my YouTube channel, and a lot of you did, thank you so much. If you haven't and would like to, I'd really like that too. That would be great. Thank you. And also, if you would like to have a one-to-one Astro coaching session with me, my website is just down here at the bottom of the video, and I would really love to see you. So in the meantime, thank you very much, Sagittarius, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Hi, Capricorn, and welcome to your astrological overview for the month of January. Well, I suspect you really are feeling a shift in the energies. You've been hosting in Capricorn in your 1st house for a long time, both Pluto, Saturn and Jupiter, these 3 major players, these 3 big boys as I call them. Now, at the end of last year, mid-December, both Saturn, your ruler, and Jupiter moved into your 2nd house of finance, the house of Aquarius. This is really going to shift the energy for you. First of all, it's going to enable you, with Pluto just remaining in your 1st house, to spread your wings a bit, and gives you a bit of elbow room to continue with this transformation of yourself. Because I do think people will look back and think, my goodness, how you've changed personally in the last few years, especially in the last couple of years. And with them now, Saturn and Jupiter taking up residence in Aquarius, this is going to sort of shift the focus onto your finance and kind of how you structure all of that, how you sort out your investments, your bank accounts, your piggy bank, your credit card system. You're very good at this, actually, Capricorn, because Saturn is your ruler and Saturn is now here in your house of finance. You're very good at making sure you have a structure and a kind of system that works. So that will just be enhanced with Saturn's presence here. However, Jupiter could bring some very exciting kind of boosts to your financial situation because Jupiter can literally bring windfalls. There's one problem with Jupiter. Just as quickly as the money comes in, it can go out. So as long as you're mindful of that and any expenditure is, say, worthwhile, then I think you'll be fine while Jupiter's there. Now, Mercury has also been in your sign, Capricorn, through your first house. You've probably been quite chatty over the whole of the festive season at the end of last year and into the beginning of January. I think you've had quite a lot to say to a lot of people. And I think good stuff. It feels that you've found, it's like you really feel sat in your seat, I like to say. You feel you've come into your own, you've matured. And it doesn't actually matter what age you are, because we can keep maturing at different points of our age, of our lives. And so even if you're 15 or 25 or 35 or 45 or 65, we still keep reaching different levels of maturity. So Mercury on the 9th moves into your second house of finance, and he will conjunct both Saturn and then Jupiter. So he will actually be bringing, I think, lots of information to do with your finances. There may be documents to sign, there may be communications to make, things to set up, but there's certainly going to be a lot of activity. And Mercury stays here until the 30th, when he then goes into his first retrograde of the year, and he is retrograde in Aquarius until the 21st of February, but I'll talk more about that next month. So just use Mercury there in a positive way to write important letters to bank managers or tweak your finances, your investments. Now, I also want to look at the new moon that is happening on the 13th, because we're still with Capricorn at the moment. And that new moon is conjunct Pluto. So I really do feel that you start the year with a wonderful opportunity to just show the world how far you've come, how far you've changed, how far you have, like the proverbial phoenix, risen from the ashes of what has probably been ripped away from you over the last couple of years. And you have risen stronger and wiser, and really somebody who is a force to be reckoned with in the nicest possible way. Now, what I haven't talked about yet is Uranus in your 5th house. And all this year, and for the next few years, you will hear me talking about Uranus quite a lot. Because whilst Uranus in Taurus is in your 5th house is about creativity, fun, play, parties, dancing, singing, acting, also children and love affairs. Now, it could bring unexpected opportunities with prospective lovers. So if you're single and looking, then that could happen in quite an unusual and maybe in an unusual setting. And also, Mars, that has been in your 4th house, where he's been certainly getting you to rearrange your living space and maybe sort a few sort of issues out with family, he finally moves from Aries into Taurus on the 7th. By the 20th and 21st, he will be conjunct Uranus. Now, I see that as something quite sparky. I think there could be some real sparks flying between you and somebody who has perhaps just unexpectedly appeared in your life. So that could just be super exciting. And you know what, Capricorn? It's all been so much about work, you know, the last few years, work and finance and houses and stuff and family, that isn't it nice that it can start now moving into much more of how your social life is, how your friend situation is, and also, of course, finding, if you're on your own, that significant partner. But let's look at what's happening between the 15th and the 19th. So we're just going back a bit in the month, because Jupiter in Aquarius in your second house of finance will be squaring Uranus, and loosely Mars, who's coming up at that point to be conjunct Uranus. Now, Jupiter expands what it touches, and I feel that it's something about maybe something, a creative idea that has come to you, but it has quite a big price tag. So you're going to have to really do a bit of soul searching to decide whether you should just go, oh, yes, I'll just go for it, or whether you should just hold off for a bit, because a square, a hard angle like this, a challenging angle like this, can sometimes, sometimes it's difficult to know whether we're making the right decision. So what I want to suggest to you, Capricorn, is that you are as mindful as possible about any changes that you want to make, so that you give the universe, if you like, a chance to show you the way. Now, what I want to come on to now is the full moon in Leo in your 8th house on the 28th, because this is a big full moon. First of all, full moons are about completion, ending, something coming to something that is just gone past its sell-by date, leaving. It can also be about transformation. Leo is very fiery, also fun. It's a fun sign. Now, the sun, of course, is by now in Aquarius. And Aquarius, obviously, the sun is shining on the full moon in Leo. Jupiter is conjunct the sun at this point. Jupiter expands. The sun is very much about our soul. It's about our health. It's about our well-being. And Jupiter is expanding that. And I have a feeling this is connected also because we have Uranus and Mars squaring it from your 5th house in Taurus. So they're squaring the full moon, they're squaring the sun and Jupiter. For me, what this is, that you have to look at what still serves you in your life. If it's gone past its sell-by date, then get rid of it. If there are situations that need to really come to an end, if you need to move on, then I think it's having a clean sweep. I also feel there's something about a need to literally move. Now, I'm not quite sure what I mean by this, Capricorn, but something in you has to change and to shift and to move. That will become clearer as time goes on. But for sure this month, this full moon is going to be very significant for you. And I think shed light on areas that have got to be dealt with. They're sort of sitting there and you've got to think, right, what am I going to do about X? On that note, I'm going to stop and I'm going to say thank you so much for coming and listening. And if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, and many of you have, thank you so much. I'd love it if you did. Thank you. Also, if you would like a one-to-one Astro coaching session with me, my website is just down here in the bottom of the video, and I would love to see you. And in the meantime, I wish you all the best for January and the rest of 2021. And I will see you next time. Bye for now. Hi, Aquarius. Welcome to your astrological overview for the month of January. So, have you noticed a kind of easing of the energies around you and your inner life, your inner world, your kind of psyche? Because you should have done, because what's happened is that at the end of last year, both Saturn and Jupiter moved out of your 12th house and into your 1st house of Aquarius. Now, Saturn also rules Aquarius, so he's a co-ruler with Uranus. So this will give you a framework to put what you've learnt whilst they've been in the 12th house into operation, so that people can see that you're not just kind of drifting off here and there, but there's actually some structure and some substance to what you want to, or how you want to show yourself to the world. Jupiter, of course, is the planet of opportunity. And I do think whilst he's in your first house, you are going to get some opportunities to really kind of test out this new you. And that's going to be super exciting. Also, Mercury, that's been going through your 12th house, moves finally into Aquarius on the 9th. Now, Mercury will in turn conjunct Saturn and then Jupiter. Now, I think when he conjuncts Saturn, you will certainly be talking in a way that people find much more confident, and you will sound as if you really do not know what you're talking about, as if you've really learnt a lot from what these boys have put you through whilst they've been in your 12th house. When Mercury comes up to conjunct Jupiter, I think you're going to have plenty to say about a lot of things, and it may be that's because there are some opportunities that present themselves, and you are very excited about it and you want to talk about it. Now, Mercury goes retrograde on the 30th until the 21st of February, and that will give you second chances to kind of dot the I's and cross the T's with any of this kind of sense of you showing the world how much you've changed. So that will come more in February when I go back over that in February. But let's also look at Mars, who's been in your 3rd house, Aries, for quite a few months, making you probably quite fiery in the way that you communicate. And I suspect, Aquarius, that you won't stand for any nonsense at the moment. You've got some set and certain ideas about things, and you're just not going to, in a sense, take no for an answer. Well, Mars is now moving into your 4th house, Taurus, and that's on the 7th. Now, whilst he's in your 4th house, he is going to stir up where you're living. And because, of course, you've already got Uranus here in your 4th house, this is Taurus, and Uranus is the planet of the unexpected and surprise. Mars is coming up to conjunct Uranus on the on the 20th and 21st. And so it'll be interesting to see what's going on for you around your home life and family at that time, because there certainly could be some sparks flying. Let's hope they are positive sparks and sparks that bring good solutions. But I do want to talk about the fact that both Mars and Uranus square, which is a hard, challenging angle, Saturn and Jupiter this month. Mostly Jupiter is the big boy that they're going to be squaring. Now, bearing in mind this is your 1st house and Jupiter expands what it touches. There's some sort of clash going on between who you are and how you see yourself, and I think how it fits in with family members, people that you share your household with, because I think you want to make some changes, and it feels as if there might have to be some clever negotiating to get other family members on your side. So that's just something to be mindful of. But I do want to also talk about the 13th of January, because we have a new moon conjunct Pluto in Capricorn in your 12th house. And this might be partly why all this kind of sort of challenging communication is going to be happening later in the month, because the new moon on Pluto in your 12th house really is transforming you. I do feel that throughout 2021, and people are going to get a glimpse of it in January, they will see you really quite differently. You have just grown up in ways that maybe a lot of people never thought you would actually achieve. And you probably always had. But I think there's something about the confidence that Saturn in your 1st house is going to be giving you, and Jupiter bringing the opportunities to really show the world what you're made of. So that's an important new moon for you. But we must move on to the 28th, when we have a full moon in Leo, in your house of significant relationships. So this is the person who is your soulmate, partner in crime, husband, wife, partner, lover, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever title you give that person. So this full moon shows something coming to completion. It can also mean endings. But if anything has to leave your life, it's really because it's clearing the way for something new, something that serves you better for who you are now and where you're moving towards. Now, that's not going to happen for everyone. And if you're already in a very good, strong, committed relationship, then I think this will just be you moving on to a different phase of the relationship and maybe making even a stronger commitment to each other. You know, some couples might be renewing their vows, for instance. Now, this full moon, obviously the sun is in your first house in Aquarius. So, of course, it's your birthday time as well. So, happy birthday, Aquarius. But the sun, which is our life giver, our life force, is conjunct Jupiter, our planet of innovation, of opportunity, of expansion. So, it may be that a partner has to really adjust to the new you. And I'm sure you will have chosen someone who has the flexibility to kind of negotiate who you are becoming. But let's also look at what else is going on, because I also think because we have Mars and Uranus conjunct in Taurus in your 4th house of home, this little package of planets is squaring both the full moon and the sun and Jupiter. So that's challenging. Now, how this will play out, it may be that you both realize that for things to really go forward in the right way, you need to actually maybe completely change where you're living. Maybe one of you has moved into the property that belonged to the other one, and that you've always felt like you're a guest rather than this is my place and I can put my stamp on it. So there may be something of that nature, and that could be quite challenging because it's not just maybe the wish to do it, but it's also the wherewithal. So, but you know what, later in the year, that wherewithal might actually appear because Jupiter will pop into Pisces in your 2nd house. And that might bring you the financial aid that you need, but more about that later this year. But for now, Aquarius, I think you have got an exciting year in prospect. I think you've learned an awful lot from the last couple of years, especially where I think things have changed a lot for you, where you've had to draw on inner resources that has been really challenging at times. And I think you can pat yourself on the back, Aquarius, because I think you've done really very well. So thank you so much for coming to watch your January astrology. If you have already subscribed to my YouTube channel, thank you so much. I'm really thrilled. And a lot of you did last month, and I really value that. Thank you very much. If you haven't and would like to, I'd love that too. Thank you. Also, if you would like a one-to-one for Astro coaching, you can go to my website address, which is just down here at the bottom of the video. And in the meantime, I will see you next month. Thank you very much. Bye for now. Bye. Hi, Pisces. Welcome to your January astrological overview. So, you now have, of course, residing in your 12th house Aquarius, both Saturn and Jupiter. So how's this going to affect your inner world, your psyche? Because Aquarius is a house actually about freedom, whereas the 12th house is actually about feeling quite trapped. So they're an interesting kind of match, both just Aquarius and and the 12th house. Now, Saturn co-rules Aquarius, so he's actually quite comfortable here in Aquarius. Saturn brings structure and also restriction. But I actually think because Pisces, you can tend to sort of, you know, the fish goes both ways and swims, and you can be quite difficult. Sometimes I think you find it quite difficult to hold on to one idea and stick with it. Now, with Saturn here, I actually think you are going to be, in a sense, training yourself to really just put a bit more structure into the way that you deal with yourself and your inner world, so that you don't keep exhausting yourself or running rings around yourself with your sort of Neptunian part that is smoke and mirrors. Jupiter here, I think, is going to bring you the opportunities to really grow and become, it's almost as if you're being given an opportunity for that conscious part of you and even the unconscious part to just raise the game a bit, because very much with Saturn and Jupiter now firmly in Aquarius, it is like the dawn of Aquarius. So is this the dawn for you of you actually understanding your inner world and understanding you in a much freer way and being able to think outside the box? Well, let's have a look what might help or not help that, because first of all, we've got Mercury, who's been in your 11th house, Capricorn, and he moves into Aquarius, your 12th house, on the 9th. Now, Mercury is our planet of communication. He will be conjunct both Saturn and then Jupiter. Now, I think when he's conjunct Saturn, he is going to see you, in a sense, talking quite seriously to yourself, maybe making some quite structured changes to how you take care of your mental health, quite simply, you know, through perhaps just having a bit more of a regime to look after your inner world, your psyche. And I think when Mercury comes up to conjunct Jupiter, you will actually be quite excited about the benefits that you feel are already showing for you by being a little bit more disciplined with this inner world of yours, this inner life. So maybe it's time to really kind of, you know, join that meditation class, do a mindfulness course, but certainly anything that just gets that inner world of yours into a better structure. So Mercury actually goes on its first retrograde on the 30th in Aquarius, in your 12th house. But I will talk more about that next month because he's retrograde until the 21st of February. So we've got plenty of time then to look at how that's going to affect your inner world. But I also want to talk, before I move on to other exciting things in your chart, about the fact that we have a new moon on the 30th in Capricorn in your 11th house, and it's conjunct Pluto. Now, Pluto is the planet of transformation. This is new transformative opportunities for you with some long-held dream or wish. So if there's something you've been working on, Pisces, that you're really, really can't wait to kind of unleash on the world, so to speak, I think the 13th is giving you your green light. And I just think it gives you an opportunity to also show how versatile you are and actually what a fun person you can be, Pisces, because sometimes people, I think, actually don't quite understand Pisces because they're not always very good at showing who they really are to the world. So I want to move on now down to your 3rd house, which is Taurus, because you've got Uranus here, our planet of the unexpected and surprise and innovation and all sorts of things. And of course, the 3rd house is about communication. It's also about thinking. I think Uranus here has already started to help you think outside the box. So I do feel that people are going to see a very different Pisces in the year 2021. And Uranus here is really giving you a chance to sort of overturn a lot of the old ways that you've thought about things and the way you've communicated, and find new ways to communicate. Also, what's interesting is that we have Mars, the planet of action, activity, aggression, assertion, who's been going through your money house of Aries for the last few months. He's finally leaving Aries and he comes into Taurus on the 7th. Now, by the 20th and the 21st, he's going to be conjunct Uranus. Now, that's going to bring real sparky stuff into your communication. So I think really, be aware of those dates. 20th, 21st, it's also on the world stage, and I talked about this in the overview at the beginning. It's quite a significant time in world events, with what is planned for that kind of time. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, for you in the 3rd house, I just think you are really going to be very assertive, and it may be that you're also teaching more about what you know about, so that you are moving into other areas that perhaps surprise quite a lot of people, that they didn't know you had it in you. So well done, Pisces. So next we need to move on to the full moon this month, which is on the 28th in Leo, in your 6th house. Now, the 6th house is day-to-day working routine. It can also be service to others, so it can be the service industries. It can also be health issues. So a full moon is about endings. It's about coming to some kind of conclusion. It's about things coming to completion, to fruition. Now, it may be that you are a clean sweep of the board and you're completely changing the way you run your everyday working routine. And this may be because of a dream or project that you've been working on that is starting to take off, courtesy of that new moon in Pluto in Capricorn on the 13th. But the 6th house with this full moon is opposite the sun in Aquarius in your 12th house. Now, the 12th house, you've got the sun here. The sun is about your well-being, your health, and in this part of the chart, your mental health, your psychological well-being. And it's shining its light on the moon down here in the 6th house. Now, what I feel, Pisces, is that if you need extra help with helping you decide and understand who you are in a better way to manage the projects that I think you're launching, because I just get a sense of that in your chart, that there's quite a lot of excitement coming up. And Jupiter is conjunct the sun opposite the full moon. So he expands things. So I really feel it's about looking outside the box, thinking outside the box. And actually, if you need help and assistance with launching something, getting something off the ground, then do that. What's also interesting is that Uranus conjunct Mars is square this full moon. Now remember, that's in your 3rd house, Taurus. So there's something here about communication, and perhaps you've got to be very careful the way you communicate, and not too assertively or aggressively, but try and find, because a square is a challenge. So you need to find quite a middle ground there and find a way of moderating the way you come across when you're communicating and your thought. Because Pisces, there's all this excitement going on in your 12th house now with Saturn there and Jupiter. This is why I think there might be a few teething problems as you get used to this energy, because it's really exciting energy in your 12th house. But more of that next month. And in the meantime, I just want to say thank you so much, Pisces, for coming to watch your January astrological overview. Thank you to those of you that have recently signed up to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. A lot of you did last month. Thank you. If you haven't and would like to, I'd love that too. Thank you in advance. And also, if you would like a one-to-one with me for astro coaching and life guidance, then if you go to my website, which is just here at the bottom of the video, then we can set up an appointment time. In the meantime, I really wish you well, Pisces, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.